Okay, good morning. It is Friday. Right, so I thought I would spend a little bit of time. I'm not going to be here. I've got a bit of a hard end on this today. I am pretty busy. Been an interesting week actually. Mainly busy writing ads, and I think I've spent way too much time in front of the screen. I can feel my eyes hurting. I've actually set my screen to nighttime mode just to reduce the brightness, make it softer on my eyes. May need to get some of those glasses. My son's got some at the moment. When he does so much gaming, he started wearing these glasses so that it doesn't affect him. The blue light doesn't affect him. So anyway, I was going to talk about something which came up in a post in a group that I'm part of, and the discussion was around paid ads or organic, or it sort of led into that. It was just somebody's opinion, just basically saying that they didn't. Their comment was that ads don't work. I mean, they put a small caveat on it saying, well, I'm sure it works for somebody, but it doesn't work. And then I said, that's fine. We'll just have to agree to disagree. And, beyond that, they were kind of like, well, I would never recommend ads. Like, cool, don't, and the whole thing of organic is best. It's like, well, best for what? In what sense? So, so I thought I'd kind of give my perspective on it, very biased, obviously. Also, what I've noticed, and this is true for pretty much any topic on social media is very good at polarizing, in the sense of it seems very rare that social media acknowledges there's any kind of spectrum between one side and the other side. It's always literally binary, black and white. It's this or it's that. You either agree with this or you agree with that. If you don't agree with this, you must disagree. It's like completely black and white. It's either one or the other. So even the question, is organic best, is paid best, is a stupid question, because it isn't that black and white. It isn't this works, this doesn't work. It's like there's nuance. There's a whole line in between it. And the other side of it as well, of course, is you can, of course, combine organic and paid. Like straight off the bat, simple thing. Like, I'm not a fan of search engine optimization, going searching, doing your keyword research, and then somehow writing some content to enable Google's spiders to eventually come and crawl through your page and rank you on their search engine as number one for a particular phrase. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's a lot of work for very little return. But don't get me wrong, I know there are people that spend their whole life doing that. I've also got a friend of mine who spent something like 20 grand on someone who was supposedly some sort of SEO consultant who was going to rank his pages for certain key phrases. Not that it worked out, but still, the person wanted 20 grand. 20 grand of advertising would get me a lot of return. So, it's interesting, this idea that, one, I think people's perception of organic is that it's free. It's never free. There's always a time commitment involved. I think there's an element of wanting to be, particularly in coaching fields and service fields. What's going on there with I suddenly got a little Wi-Fi thing on my screen. Just, it looks fine. Should be fine. Anyway, so, this whole idea like organic is somehow going to be free. It's never free. As I've said, there's always a time commitment to it. Even SEO. I mean, if you're doing search engine optimization, vast amount of time involved from going from, let's say you've even got a list of key phrases you want to rank for, getting from that to get to a place where you actually rank for those, and then actually rank on the first page, and then rank in the top 3, that's a huge amount of time and a huge amount of effort on somebody's part. So if you're not doing it yourself, then you're paying someone else to do it. So you're still paying, or you're doing it yourself, in which case you've now got to become, one, a specialist at that. You've got to get good at it. So it's a skill, like any of these things. And then, of course, you've then got to do the work on a day-by-day basis, but you're not going to see a result for 6 months, a year, maybe, if that, if you get anywhere. And if you're competing for certain phrases where you are competing against some of the very big boys or girls, then you don't stand a chance, because they can throw way more resource at it than you can, and they're happy to pay for that resource. So it doesn't really work out. But if you were to say, well, could I get the benefits of somebody's organic SEO ranking? Yeah, you could, because there are sites which spend their whole time ranking for certain key phrases, but their business model is to sell advertising space. So they just hand it over to Google. So in other words, Google AdSense, I think it's still called that, they're just literally organizing their site so they can put ads on their site which are relevant for the keywords that they rank for. So that's a way really to get in front of those, or to leverage someone else's SEO, ads come on their website. So they put all the effort in, they put all the work in to rank, and you just get to appear on their page when somebody clicks through to their page. So, that would be an example, a very simple example of combining organic and paid. Now, let's take it a little bit further in the sense of, if we're talking about someone who's a coach, so they are, let's say, for example, using Facebook, and they're building up a Facebook group like a couple of friends of mine have done, and they're using that group to organically attract people. So they put in a certain amount of time each day, certainly in the beginning, where you are actively looking on Facebook, possibly in other groups, for the kind of people you feel would make good clients, and you're inviting them to your group. So you're effectively going around Facebook saying to people, hey, come join my group as well. And so those people join your group. Hopefully, some of them do, some of them won't. And then you build up, then you got to engage them. So now you got to write posts. So you're writing posts on a daily basis. Nothing wrong with that. You are effectively doing the same, from a strategic point of view, you're doing exactly the same things as you would do with an ad. You are using your post to establish your authority. You are using your post to empathize with a problem that your prospects have. And you are then using your post, and this is where I see it falls down a little bit, using your post to move people from free member of your group to actually buying something from you. And that tends to be the weakest link in these strategies. Doesn't have to be, of course. If you're good at that, you can get good at it. It's a skill, again, then it can work very well. So the challenge of that is time. In other words, build significant Facebook groups and take a lot of time and effort. The other option, of course, is then to apply the same idea to go, well, which groups have already got my people? Can I just spend more time in those groups, answering other people's questions, establishing my authority that way, and then inviting them to have a talk with me? So you bypass your own group and you get them straight on a call, which tends to be the primary strategy. The primary conversion strategy seems to be, particularly for coaching, is to move somebody from either a group they're in your group, moving them to let's have a conversation. And that tends to be the primary focus. And it works. All good. So then, of course, you could say, well, I want to continue doing that because I think from a nurturing point of view, if you're the kind of person who likes to build a group and likes posting and engaging with people and likes looking for the telltale signs of somebody who has got a problem and is ready to solve it now, then, of course, all you got to do is say, do you want to have a chat? Let's get on a call. So if you're the kind of person that likes doing that, that could work really well. So then the question then is, can you accelerate the number of people in your group? In other words, rather than, let's say, I don't know, what could you realistically do in a day along with everything else that you're doing? Let's say you were doing nothing else but fill in your group. So all you had to do each day was go on Facebook. So let's say you've got, I call it, say, Facebook and LinkedIn. Let's say you've got 8 hours a day. I don't know how realistic that is. Let's say you've got 8 hours a day and all you do is scroll through LinkedIn and scroll through Facebook looking for people to invite to your group. Let's say you did that and did nothing else. How many people could you realistically get to join your group each day? I don't know. Could you put out 100 invites a day? Probably on Facebook. LinkedIn, in terms of actually sending out connection requests, limits you to 100 a week, so you can't do it there. Can you comment on other people's posts on LinkedIn and bring them to your profile page? And on your profile page, you could then have a like sales copy, basically saying, come join my group. You could do that. How effective that would be, I don't know. I've never tested it. So you could do that. But let's say that's all organic. So all you're doing every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, is literally looking for people who look like your ideal prospect and inviting them into your group. Let's say you do all that. Let's say you get 20 people a day. That's 100 people a week come into your group. Let's say within a few months, you got a few thousand people. That's doable, probably. And now you got a few thousand people. Now you got to, obviously, and during this time, as soon as, actually, you won't have 8 hours a day, because as soon as you've got anybody in your group, now you've got to engage them. So now you've got to write posts. So you're going to need a little bit of time to write posts. And now, of course, as your group's growing, what type of post you put out. So we're back to posts which establish your authority, posts which empathize with their problem, posts which ideally, and I don't see this happening very often, but posts which address the objections someone would have for paying you to help them. So in other words, sales objections. So you want to use some of your posts and your stories to nail those objections. That's a tip, by the way. And I say, I don't see it done very well. I don't see it done very often either, but it would make a massive difference to the number of people who buy from you. So you should be doing that. So let's split the day. Let's say you've got 6 hours a day to go find people, 2 hours a day to write good posts and think strategically through the week, what kind of posts you want to put out there to deal with objections, highlight that you got a service, get people on a call, and so on and so on. So you do all of that. Could you do that? Yeah, you could do that. Would it work? I'm sure it would. Sounds actually like, I mean, I'm thinking out loud, but it sounds like a decent enough strategy. How long would it take before you actually see results from it in terms of sales, money in your bank account? I don't know. Could be in the first week, could get lucky, could take 6 months. Who knows? But I do know that building a group of any real size, I mean, I've seen people or know of people that have built a Facebook group organically just by inviting people. Actually, no, not organically. I've seen people build Facebook groups very rapidly, but they haven't done it purely organically by just manually inviting people. They haven't done it that way at all. The people that I've seen who've done it purely organically with just literally grunt effort of inviting people, it takes a couple of years to build a substantial group. I know someone who's got a group, it seems to have leveled out around the sort of 1,200-1,300 mark. And I know he's been doing it for a couple of years. I know someone else who's been done it purely organically. He's got about 5,500 people in his group, probably approaching 6,000. He seems to have hit a tipping point where the referrals into the group obviously stimulate the growth. So you do get that impact once you get to a certain level. And again, it seems to be teetering around the 6,000, doesn't seem to get beyond that. And I know that's taken him best part of 10 years, I would say. Yeah, easily, best part of 10 years. So, is there more he could have done? So then that's organic, nothing wrong with it. That's fine. If you're in it for the long game, which you probably are, then that's all cool. And then from my point of view, though, I'd be saying, like, look, if the organic aspect of it, the bit where you are nurturing, writing the posts, inviting people to have a conversation with you, if all of that's organic and all that works and nothing wrong with it, it's all great, then my question would be, how do we accelerate that? In other words, how do you get more people into your group faster? So from my point of view, that would be paid advertising. It's like run ads that you're effectively selling membership to your group, free membership, but you're selling it. So you're giving people all the reasons they need to be in your group. It's like, it's true. Being in my group allows you to get more clients more easily. So you can stop the frustration of feast and famine in terms of results or feast and famine in terms of income. So you could use ads to accelerate the whole process. So within the group, you're still doing your posts organically. You're still dealing with people's objections through your posts. You're still inviting people to come on calls with you. So, and then of course you got to book the calls. Then you got a day, maybe where a day a week or 2 days a week, you're just getting on the call with somebody for however long, half an hour, 45 minutes to get them to buy into whatever your program is. So you could do all of that. So that would be one option. So I look at it as, if you're doing something like that, do both. So it's not, is paid better than organic? They both have pros and cons. The biggest pro of organic is that people don't have these instant defense mechanisms of, you're trying to sell me something. So they perceive it as content, nurturing. I mean, I see plenty of people writing content, which is decent content in the sense of it's educational. The framing of it and the writing of it isn't salesy enough, in my opinion, or isn't influential enough to establish your credibility or establish that somebody might want to follow you for another time. So there's that element to it. There's a skill to that. But you could do all of that. So there's the people don't have this immediate impact of, well, you're trying to sell me something, therefore my barriers are up, or I'm going to ignore it. So that's the upside of organic. The downside of organic, of course, is the time and the effort and the length of time it takes to do anything with it. The upside of paid is speed, absolute speed. And even this week, I've been testing, because I've mentioned I've been doing a lot more affiliate stuff. And I'm doing it because, one, I'm enjoying it. Two, it's created a business model which gives me way more freedom. And it means that I just focus on one aspect, which is the marketing and the selling. But even within that, let's say, a 90-second video ad, the frame of the ad matters. Like if I frame the ad as come to the next step, which is to watch something, that doesn't give me as quick a return financially as framing the ad as this is a paid solution. So in other words, using the ad to qualify people who are ready now to buy a solution gives me a bigger instant result financially than not doing that. So you could use ads, and I would recommend you do use ads to generate your leads. Like I saw a post earlier this week from, someone I know reasonably well, and he was saying, they've done a poll and most companies, of the sorts of companies they deal with, which tend to be small, medium-sized businesses, self-employed, to solopreneur type things. People saying anything like 30 leads a week would be phenomenal for them. That would just be extraordinary for them. And you're thinking, you could run an ad. You could have 30 leads in a day if you wanted to. You could certainly have 30 leads a week very easily from paid ads. So if they're struggling to get 30 leads a week, and I'm talking from experience this week, I've got one ad that I ran, it's just doing about 50 leads a day. So, I know how quick you can get leads. What I like about paid ads as well, and this is something that people who are doing organic don't think enough about, because there's no urgency to it. Paid ads, you're paying, you're putting money on the line. So how quickly would you want to be targeting the right people? As quickly as possible. So you will learn from it. So in other words, you got to really think about, and I've noticed this with, say, YouTube ads. Like, you're writing a video. Now, I know that Google's algorithm is phenomenal, but it needs something to work towards. So you have to give it a conversion. So you have to say what counts as a conversion. So for example, if we're talking purely generating leads, you might say if somebody clicks my ad, goes to my landing page, and clicks to get my free report. Let's keep it simple. They click to get my free report. They give me their name and their email address. They submit them. They subscribe. They then get sent an email that says, confirm you want this. And then obviously beyond that, they get the actual report. That's a lead. Okay. So when they click and say, yes, I want this report, fill in their details and click submit, they go to a thank you page. So you could say to Google, people arriving at the thank you page are the people I want. So that's a conversion. So you can take that, set that up as a conversion in Google, and then you use that. So in other words, once you start running the ads, you say, okay, look, run these ads, show them to people. The people that get to the thank you page, I want more people like that. So obviously day one, the algorithm's like, I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue who that's supposed to be. It's like, what are we selling? So if you then need to be able to target your ad to narrow it down, otherwise, you put... Otherwise, you put your ad up and Google goes, yay, we can show it to 10 billion different people. Like more people than there are on the planet, or it'll get 10 billion impressions a day, but it's very random. Who's getting it? Young people, old people, people in America, people in England, people in Singapore, people in Malaysia, people in Pakistan. It's like, it could be anywhere. So in the beginning, you want to narrow it down a little bit. So you might say, okay, well, I'm going to narrow it down geographically. I'm going to narrow it down. Like I've got campaigns where, it's running to... I narrow it down. I just will focus on males. I focus on males between certain ages. I focus on males between certain ages in certain countries. And then within that, I then have said, okay, they also need to have this interest. And the way that I've done that is to put in keywords. So you come up with a list of keywords that are relevant to the offer, and I put those in. So immediately, the targeting at Google goes from everybody, from 10 billion potential impressions a day down to 3 million impressions a day. But it's much more narrowly targeted. And then what you'll see is, so now, and this forces you to do this because otherwise you're just going to waste money. So this is the advantage of paid ads. So now the ad starts running. Google's thing is putting it out there, seeing who clicks on the ad, going, oh, this is interesting. These are the people who click. That's interesting. Are they the people? Then, of course, people need to click first before they become a lead. So obviously, straight away, that's a signal for Google. And then out of the people that click, so initially there might be a broad range of people that click the ad. And then there's a percentage of those that then become a lead and arrive at the thank you page. As soon as it does that, then obviously the algorithm can start picking that up and going, these are the people you want. These are the people you've told us you want. These are the people. We know who they are. We've got all these data points on them. Let us now change our targeting to go attract the people we think most readily match that data, those data points. And that's what it does. So the algorithm starts working for you, and it is phenomenal. And you see it. How do you know it's working? Because, for example, day one, cost per click might be $3. Could be anything. I mean, I've had it higher than that. I've had it a lot lower than that day out the gate. But then, within a couple of days, that $3 is less than $1. And then it's like, that's the algorithm working for you. So, but the point being, in order to not waste money, you've got to have some idea of who you're targeting. You've got to have some perspective on it. If you were targeted on LinkedIn, if you're the kind of people you want are on LinkedIn, then paid ads, one, you wouldn't run them through Google because they don't own LinkedIn, but you could run them through Microsoft Ads. Microsoft own LinkedIn. So inside of Microsoft Ads, they immediately say to you, would you like to target people with certain job descriptions? Yeah. I mean, you can obviously do it directly on LinkedIn's platform as well. Run the ads. But the point being, it forces you to think about who you want as a client. And then, of course, the advantage of it is you're then getting the algorithm working for you if you're leveraging the algorithm and giving it a conversion to work with. That's a massive advantage that you don't get with organic. You never get that with organic, because what would be the incentive to Google or Microsoft to do that for you organically? There isn't. The incentive is you want to pay us, we'll give you this. There's a massive advantage to them because it's a win-win situation. And this is the other side as well. Remember, any kind of content you put out, the platform is interested in the platform. Facebook will rank and score all the content you put out. Even in your group, it will rank it because it's based on how often it wants to show it to anybody in your group. That's why people have been saying, organic is like, it's dropped off. People are not seeing it. So you're not seeing it because Facebook want to know that your content will keep people on their platform. That's what they want. They want people to stay on their platform longer. The ultimate outcome would be that people spend all day on Facebook. They don't go anywhere else. They just spend all day on Facebook. I guess, and I'm guessing at this, that's not healthy, but that probably would be Facebook's ideal because they want people to stay on the platform. So they rank your content. They do the same for your ads as well. They determine how they're going to share your ads based on the content of it, how people engage with it, how much it gives people what they want so that they continue to stay on and use more and more of Facebook. And all the platforms work in the same way that way. So really, in terms of is paid better, is organic better, it's the wrong question. The question should be, how quickly do you want results? In which case, paid is always going to be superior because you don't have to fight as much for attention or wait for you to get some kind of organic response or wait for some search engine term to rise through the ranks, which is going to cost you more in time and probably more in money anyway, because in order to do that effectively, you've either got to pay someone else to do it, so you're spending money straight away, or you got to buy the tools to do it yourself. In other words, you're paying for the tools. What I find interesting, of course, is people will buy a tool. So let's say, actually, there's services. Let's say, what's the one? SEMrush, I think it's called. SEMrush provide a service. I think it's $100 a month, maybe somewhere around that mark. And people will pay that. So they'll pay that a month, and it gives them research tools. So they can research certain keywords. They can spy on their competitors and see what keywords they're using to get more ideas. So now everybody's looking at everybody else, and they're all coming up with the same list of keywords. Great. Now you've got to somehow take that and turn it into something which a machine algorithm determines is most relevant to that term. So you've got to create a piece of content. Whereas an ad is most relevant to a human being. So it's about writing something which appeals to a human being. That's very different to a machine algorithm. So paid gives you acceleration. Paid focuses your mind because you got to get it right. And the other side of it as well is, even when somebody, and this is getting more strategic, but when somebody opts in to get something from you, whether it's joining a Facebook group, whether it's going on your email list, then you have an opportunity. That thank you page I mentioned, that thank you page can be a sales page. That sales page could immediately sell something, and you got the opportunity to turn that lead into a buyer straight away. And a certain percentage of people will do that. Obviously, if you never put a sales letter on your thank you page or a sales video on your thank you page, you'll never have that because you're never showing anybody anything. But you can do that. And I know I've been helping a friend of mine at the moment. We've been running some campaigns. He's been running a challenge. And my immediate first question is, well, how do we make a return on the advertising straight away? And one way to do that, of course, is to create a VIP ticket for the challenge. So you got a free ticket and you got a VIP ticket. VIP ticket, $97. Immediately you're making money. And that works. Also, we're getting people to register via email. So you're collecting their email address, you're building a list. And then, of course, so you're building a list, so you've got an asset, you've got people that you can follow up with by email. We're encouraging them to join a Facebook group because that's where the challenge is taking place. We're offering them an upsell to the Facebook group. And then we also offer them a few other things as well. So even if they don't take the VIP ticket, they might take some of the other offers because they're simple, like book offers, things like this. But it's all does two things. One, you get a bigger commitment from people because if they bought something from you once, they're more likely to buy again. Secondly, you're making a return on your money straight away. So the advertising technically should break even, if not make a profit straight away. So all of that goes to say, it comes down to, if I was to summarize this, paid plus organic is by far the best. The ability to nurture people. Paid gives you instant returns. You can write great ads which establish authority, empathize with the problem, and immediately move people to make a purchase. In the same way, like we used to run ads, invite people to a free event and do a 90-minute talk to them. There's still a 90-minute talk that ends with people being given the opportunity to buy something. So whereas organic tends to be organic, put out lots of content with very little kind of here's a sales thing. It's like, or one of the things I have seen, I don't fully understand this, is I'm going to do a workshop and it's free. But they've already joined your free group. You've already given them loads of free stuff. Why do you want to now give them a free workshop? It's like, come on, the workshop, it ain't free, but it's valuable. It solves a problem. If you're solving a problem for someone, charge for it. That's another story, I guess, for another time. But my bottom line on this is it's not hard and fast, organic or paid. Organic, if you're doing it correctly for nurturing, can also be incorporated into paid, where paid is accelerating the whole process of either filling the group or driving leads straight to a small offer, collecting their details, obviously moving on that way. So I would always combine the two. If you are struggling for leads and are consistently have been struggling for leads, there's an idea comes from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is called the ultimate success formula, which in its simplest terms is know what you want, know why you want it, take action, measure the results, change your approach. So in other words, get feedback. Step 4, get feedback. Step 5, is what you're doing working? If not, change your approach. So if you've been on LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere, and you're building up a Facebook group, you're trying to build up a follow on LinkedIn, or you're trying to build a subscription base on YouTube, and you're doing all of that and you're not generating leads from it, change your approach, because something isn't working. And doing more of it isn't going to make it work. Does that make sense? So you got to change your approach in that respect. So I would always say use paid to accelerate your organic. If it's something that requires nurturing and requires a lead cycle, so you've got a sales cycle that might take anything from a few weeks to a few months to potentially a couple of years before someone decides to buy, that's all good. And certainly statistically, people buying things like coaching and so on from their first interaction with you, like the percentage of people who will buy on first interaction, 10% maybe. Potential people who buy after 90 days is significantly higher. It starts jumping way up. So most people will buy after knowing you for at least 3 months. So if you think, okay, I want to do 3 months of nurturing, within that time frame, I do want to make offers for the people who are ready to buy straight away. That's cool. And then continue to make offers on a weekly or monthly basis so that as people feed into that 3 months, they go, oh, I've known you for 3 months. I trust you. I believe you. I'm ready to buy. There's an opportunity for them to buy. To get them into that cycle, I would always say paid. So drive them in, just like use paid ads to get them in, build it, accelerate it. And secondly, I would also say experimenting with paid ads. One, focuses your mind to be sure who it is you want to target. It also helps you find who you want to target because you get feedback rapidly. So you keep changing things and adjusting things. And secondly, you can sell things straight away. So you can be making a big profit straight away, where you're effectively putting $1 in and getting $2 out. Or as you start to scale, you're putting $1 and you're getting $1.50 out. You're still getting money out. You're still making a profit. So my side of things is always going to be get to the point where you're running paid ads as quickly as possible. If you've got an extra $10, put it into paid ads. You will learn something from it, if nothing else. Like, I run new campaigns. I'm writing a new campaign today, but I'll run a campaign and, let's say I spend only $10 a day on it. Typically, I'll spend $20 a day out the gate just to test it. But within a day, within 24 hours, I've already got signals. I've already got feedback. I already know what I need to change or test. And then out the gate, I'm not testing one thing. I'm testing 3 versions of an ad straight away. So I'm already getting insights rapidly within less than 24 hours. Certainly within 48 hours, you got some amazing feedback data to make better decisions with. Can't do that with organic. Just doesn't happen. So I'm going to wrap it up because I've got more ads to write. But my suggestion is nothing wrong with organic. Nothing wrong with creating a group. Nothing wrong with nurturing people. That's all relevant and necessary. What's great is to be able to accelerate that process by putting more people into the group through advertising and leveraging that advertising to make them a small offer, sell them something, a small course, something like that, so that you're making money back straight away. And then don't forget, and this is the biggest thing, whether it's paid or organic, make sure you are making offers consistently. If you are not putting an offer out to somebody on a daily basis, then you are leaving money on the table, you are leaving impact on the table, you are leaving influence on the table, and you're basically not in business. So I'll leave it at that. If you got any comments, please leave them below. Got anything you want to ask a question in the comments below. I will come back and I will go through it and I will answer you. Other than that, have a great week. but make offers, drive leads. That is 90% of what you do in the beginning. If you're doing less than $1 million a year, that is all you should be doing. All right, talk to you in the next live.